Millions of Hong Kong residents have come out to peaceful parades. Civilians and protesters are tear-gassed weekly. Organized violent attacks are becoming more and more common. Tensions dangerously escalate between Hong Kong and China. Hong Kong protesters still persist week after week in their David and Goliath fight, asserting they won't stop until the government meets the 5 demands. Carrie Lam's refusal to address these 5 demands has led to widespread anger and frustration at a leader that doesn't listen to the people. So what are these 5 demands? We asked the protester to come in and tell them to us himself.
Hi, I'm a Hong Kong protester, and the 5 demands are: first, to completely withdraw the extradition bill.
The extradition bill, the spark that ignited the massive Hong Kong protests.
The bill is dead.
This is the one satisfied demand of Hong Kong protesters and the only original ask. But by the time the government listened to protesters,
I have heard you loud and clear,
it was too little,
and have
too late.
reflected deeply.
Throughout months of peaceful protests, the government had not only been unreceptive to protester wants, but police had arrested hundreds of protesters, fired an exorbitant amount of tear gas, and been involved directly and indirectly in multiple attacks on Hong Kong people. These are what guided the establishment of the 4 remaining demands.
And second is to drop the charges of the arrested protester.
Close to 5,000 people have been arrested throughout the months of protests, a lot of them under 18 years old, likely about a third. Under Hong Kong Basic Law, citizens have the right to peaceful assembly and freedom of speech. This demand calls for all charges on arrested protesters dropped, since protesting is not illegal. The police and government, however, arrested most protesters under charges of rioting, which leads us to the next demand.
To retract the proclamation of the riots incidents.
Rioters, violence, the rioters are under pressure.
Rioting is an act that warrants 10 years in prison in Hong Kong. What happened was this. In June, 2 million Hong Kongers came out to peacefully protest against the extradition bill. But the Hong Kong government classified the march as a riot, tear-gassed crowds, and arrested attendees under rioting charges. It was seen as a ploy to scare people from protesting and kill the anti-extradition movement. This demand focuses on eliminating the unfair classification of peaceful protesters as rioters, and therefore the unfair
charges of the arrested protester.
This demand is altered in its clarity now. Protesters have moved on from purely peaceful tactics to stand up against police and force government attention to their 5 demands. These acts give more substance for the government to justify riot proclamations. This demand was originally aimed at the mislabeled classification of the peaceful protesters as rioters before things started getting more intense.
Fourth, to set up an independent investigation to investigate did the police use excessive violence.
There have been many instances of police misconduct, both caught on video and alleged by the people. A few events stand out as the ones citizens want investigations into the most. The Yuen Long station attacks. A mob of 100+ armed men attacked civilians on the street and in the Yuen Long transit station. Despite thousands of reports made to the police hotline, they did not arrive for more than 30 minutes until after the mob had left the station. Nearby police stations were also coincidentally closed that night. Video from that night also shows police walking by the mob casually and not arresting a single person. Second, the Prince Edward Station attacks, an incident in which Hong Kong police allegedly attacked passengers suspected to be protesters while on their way home. Police saw this as a complete overreach in police conduct. Many allege that people were killed this night. The current police have rejected it. Third is the excessive use of violence when making arrests or trying to control protesters. Fourth, the imprudent and excessive use of tear gas. Yet the government press responses are always dismissive of the situations and quick to disregard any wrongdoing done by police.
Perhaps that may send some wrong message to the public. Trust us.
The result is widespread distrust of the government and the Hong Kong police. Hong Kong people feel that the government has done wrong and need to be held accountable by a trustworthy, independent authority.
Come on the street and tell the government and tell the crowd that we are still insisting our 5 demands.
And 5, universal suffrage. And that's the 5 demands.
The protesters want real democracy, a right to vote and the leaders they want to advocate for their needs. The current voting system is skewed to always guarantee a pro-Beijing majority in the Legislative Council and a pro-Beijing chief executive. Despite pro-democracy candidates winning the popular vote in every single election since the 1997 British handover of Hong Kong, there has never been a pro-democracy majority in the Legislative Council. Joshua Wong, a well-known Hong Kong activist, was banned from running for local office in the November 2019 elections after a government official vaguely deemed him unable to uphold Hong Kong's laws.
As the only candidate being disqualified by Beijing, which proved election in Hong Kong is being manipulated by the communist authorities. However, even they censor me out from the ballot, lock me up in prison, it would just encourage me continue to fight for future with an even stronger determination.
Until Hong Kongers get true universal suffrage, the government will always act in support of China's wants, not the Hong Kong people.
Because this is our home. This is our home. We have to fight for our home.
Hong Kongers have made it clear what they want from these historical protests. 5 demands, not one less.